Okay, so let's talk about the Republican Party for a second, and specifically the Republican caucus in the United States Congress. This first week of the Trump administration has been great. It's been more than great. It's been beyond our wildest dreams. And it's been very interesting to watch the GOP at large, not just Trump and his advisors and his staff, not just the Trump people, but the GOP at large. Because the GOP, especially elected officials, especially members of Congress, Republican members of Congress, their reaction to Trump has been very different this time around. You may have noticed the same thing. And the reason for that is because President Trump's strategy when he took office wasn't just to have this grand old inauguration day where he signed some symbolic executive actions and then kind of surveil the landscape to see exactly what one thing he wanted to do at a time. This kind of what did they call it when Obama would do the different Tim, you can remind me of this. When Obama would do each of his big things, like Obamacare, this was his landmark piece of legislation. This was his legacy defining piece of legislation. Trump's not doing that. Trump is pioneering a new type of campaigning, and I call it shock and awe. Shock and awe. He's doing so many significant, earth-changing things all at once that leftists on one hand, the mainstream media on the other, their heads are spinning. They don't even have time to propagate fake news about him, to issue propaganda, to malign people's characters. They just don't have time because we're on to the next big thing. I mean, think about for a minute, if on Inauguration Day, Donald Trump had simply rescinded the use of the CBP1 app. If that's all he had done, we would now be absolutely entrenched in a campaign from the mainstream media, from elected Democrats, from activists on social media, telling us how awful, truly inhumane this was to migrants. We'd be getting videos and pictures of poor migrant camps that are getting this news and breaking down in tears. And to be honest, I can think of like 2 of these pictures that I've seen. It has not overwhelmed the media narrative at all because they just don't have time. If they focused all of their attention and all their resources on one issue, then they would have to ignore all the rest. So they're kind of like their heads are spinning. They're like, oh, throw this at that, do this. And it's completely ineffective at combating President Trump. So not only, of course, is that a brilliant strategy by Donald Trump, and believe you me, the people around Trump and Trump himself have been preparing for this for multiple years. So this is not just a day one or a week one speed at which he's going to govern. This is going to be 47's administration from start to stop. But the other thing that it has done is it has given a gift to Republican members of Congress who aren't as based as you are, who aren't as based as Donald Trump, who are fearful of mainstream media attacks, of being called a racist or a xenophobe or a Nazi or inhumane or anti-migrant or whatever stupid thing the left decides to call us. A lot of Republican members of Congress don't handle that very well. They do what they can to avoid it. And so Trump has given them a gift of they're not really sustaining that kind of fire from the mainstream media. They're not really sustaining that kind of fire from anybody because maybe they'll get heat for like 2 seconds, but then it's over. And anyone can tolerate the heat for 2 seconds, right? Well, this is a new era. What did Trump call it? The golden era of America. The golden era of America has begun. And listen, I challenge you. I invite you to listen to these, even the squishiest Republican members of Congress. It's actually the most fun to listen to the squishy ones right now because this is what they're saying. Every time that they're challenged about, say, the mass deportations, this is a good example. The mass deportations, there are squishy Republican members of Congress who in the past would not have wanted to support this because they would not have wanted to sustain the criticism of the mainstream media. But now, what are these squishy Republican members saying? It's so funny. They have the exact same canned response. They're saying, Trump was elected by the American people, and we're going to stand by their desires. Oh, so for once, you as a member of Congress are actually going to represent the voters that sent you there to represent us. And so it comes full circle. What does this do? It gives Trump the power to conduct the mandate, even the legislative mandate, not just the executive mandate that we voted him into office to achieve. It's like the best reality show in the world is watching the United States government and the media, and especially those who thought they had the upper hand, like the legacy media, the corporate media, the social media giants. the globalists, and the Democrat elites, watching them react because they don't know what to do because Trump has strategically defeated them. They'll probably regroup. This kind of victory is never forever, but we'll be watching. We'll be watching to see what their strategy is going to be next.